Good day, friends. This is the second time I'm trying to record this video, so I hope you will excuse me if there are any boo-boos. Yeah? I wanted to talk to you about today something that is very close to my heart. Money is the greatest of curse that has befallen us, and money is the greatest of blessings we have been gifted with. Now, these might seem as two seemingly divergent contradictions, but this is how everything else in life is. Everything, no matter how important or trivial, has two faces, sort of a coin, or to be more exact, in a three-dimensional space, has three aspects to it. There is always a good aspect, a not entirely good aspect, and somewhere in between. Now, if you think about it, friends, every product, every situation, every event, and any decision that we take can be viewed as something good and helpful, or spitefully evil, or something in between, tending to either of the sides, sort of the sandwich between the two ends. Accumulating wealth or earning money to invest and expend has become the norm of everything we do in our daily lives. It's one of the most important activities, and except for perhaps love, peace, friendship, happiness, or spiritual growth, and I dare say even to the point of criticism, yet some of these may also be bartered for the mighty dollar. Money is all important. Now, ignorance about financial matters is not bliss. It is very foolish and dangerous to be willfully ignorant or not wanting to learn the basics of what perhaps constitutes the second most important activity of our lives on a daily basis. I still personally do regard that breathing is the number one activity still. Yeah? Without breath, you wouldn't be still alive. But understanding money probably rates number two. Now, ignorance, as long as it is a matter of omission owing to a lack of resources or knowledge of not knowing where to seek it, may still be understood, although not pardonable. But not wanting to know or to put in the efforts in learning, especially when one is blessed with the average faculties of learning and understanding and gaining knowledge, is, in my opinion, simply unpardonable. It is the same as me being able to read and not wanting to read. You have every right to question me, how different am I then to those who cannot read? Now, there is always a greater onus, a greater responsibility on all of us who have the basic knowledge of being able to understand the written word and understanding the difference between the numbers 0 and 9, and have a very simple basic comprehension of the key four operands that we have perhaps learned very, very early, right in our kindergarten. Now, I have always maintained and forcefully argued that everyone, man, woman, child, if they truly crave for independence, independence of thought, independence of action, should strive for three kinds of freedom. For me, the most important one is economic independence. It simply translates for me to fiscal freedom, understanding financial matters, being able to use and spend your money the way you want to. Number 2, emotional independence. Emotional freedom from attachment, from despair, from depression. That is extremely important. And number 3 is energy independence. The freedom from lethargy, from sloth, from diseases. So for me, these 3 things are extremely critical for every person to aspire for. Friends, knowledge is power. Information is power. Literacy and its application is real power. Now, I'm not asking every one of you listeners to enroll for an CPA, although now that might certainly open up more possibilities, especially in these current circumstances. But at the minimum, I recommend 3 kinds of financial literacy for everyone. Now, I have personally classified them as number A, earning income, B, growing and preserving your income, and C, generating income. Now, I've actually written a blog on these particular topic, and this video is only to try and promote you to read that and understand the more nitty-gritties of what I've written over there. At the most primary level, everyone needs to understand basic reconciliations. In simple words, this is the understanding of the implication of the financial decisions that are taken and being able to audit or explain why something appears on a bank statement, or how do you ensure that what you're being charged is actually correct. And to be honest, you don't really need to have a rocket scientist qualification for doing that. All you need is the basic knowledge of mathematical operands. The plus, the minus, the multiplication, the division. The same stuff that we have learned since kindergarten. You need this everywhere, from paying your bus fare or to buying a petrochemical company or even a big huge island for the matter. You should be able to 100% be able to understand your bank accounts, your bank statements, and be able to reconcile your spending with the statements that you receive. Budgeting, one of my favorite topics. Financial planning, knowing how much you earn and how much you can spend. Prioritizing the spend and understanding if there is a deficit or a surplus and what to do with the same. For me, financial planning rates really high up on the chart. Fourth, you also need to understand your financial liabilities. These are the liabilities or stuff that you're obliged or forced to pay, like taxes, for instance. And you need to have a basic understanding of basic bookkeeping. Now, the next stage of your learning, after you've learned the basics of financial literacy, should be understanding investments. This is where you make your money grow. This is where you make your money work for yourself and not the other way around. All this time we have been working for money, never made money work for us. Now, for understanding investments, you need to read and understand a wide range of options that you have. Very important is to have a diversified portfolio. I've already mentioned this in another one of my podcasts, that if you are an umbrella manufacturer, you have to invest in somebody making sunglasses. A rainy day versus a sunny day. Now, my recommendation for any kind of an investment is to, number one, invest in shares, both mid-cap, small-cap, and look for options to purchase into an exchange-traded fund. Number two, absolutely pay off your primary house. Do not linger that forever and ever and ever. Pay it off as soon as you can and invest in a property that gives you good rental income. Preferably buy something new where you can claim more depreciation. Number 3, minimize your spending on luxuries, cars, boats, jewelries, wines, paintings, pets. Great to have. But remember, they're not an investment, they are an expense. Instead, I would suggest get an education, get a CPA. One better, invest in your own experiences. Number 4, keep a small buffer of cash and marketable securities for an emergency. But besides that, every cent that you earn should be invested in something more wisely that gives you a more accretive return, that gives you much more than what you started off with. Now, with anything else, remember the 20% rule. Remember to take away 20% of your weekly earnings and just don't save it, invest it. Now, coming to the third and the final stage of financial literacy is where you start to generate your income. This is where I would like to talk briefly about entrepreneurship. Now, this is the stage where you really move into the final stages of financial independence, where you're not depending on someone else or favorable trade winds or for a windfall, but rather you are generating income, and not just for yourself, but are also in a position to be able to allow others to generate income. In this stage, you did not think of breaking the bank to set up a global petrochemical company that spans 7 continents, but rather think smart, be creative, get actively involved in creating a new business model, a startup organization, a garage venture, but one that has the promise of one day becoming huge. If you think about the big major Fortune 500 companies that we have today, they all, well, most of them at least, started off in a garage. If you think about Amazon, think Dell Computers, think Apple, with a market capitalization of over $1 trillion. Now think Microsoft, think Walmart. All these companies started small. Now, to understand entrepreneurship and to understand this final stage of financial literacy, you need to understand business strategy and modeling, another one of my favorite topics. Number 2, be able to understand legal contracts and documents. Number 3, be able to negotiate and understand the economics of consumption and production. Now, frankly, friends, there is a lot more to learn at this stage. And I promise I will try and produce a dedicated video dedicated to entrepreneurship at a later stage. But if you're already at this stage, pat your back and help those around you. Friends, financial literacy is not just a nice to have or an important thing. It is imperative, absolutely business critical, and in the current circumstances, even more so. Friends, I really hope all of you are very safe. Please make sure you're washing your hands, maintaining your hygiene. Please be very safe, and I thank you once again for listening to me. I would really appreciate any constructive feedback you have regarding this video of mine. Thank you very much, friends.